Welcome back to Global War in 1939. Just finished off round 8, so let's take a look. So for the Germans, once again, they had to remove the British American landings in France. This is becoming a big problem for the Germans and a nuisance because the British and the Americans keep landing. The Germans counter, but after the counter, they're usually left with only handful of armor, as did the Allies keep landing a sizable force every round. This time they went into different territories, so now they have to split up their force. Their only saving grace has been their air force, and they're having to put the bulk of their income in the west. This is a problem for the East because their initial plan when they backed out of Olar-Kursk into Kiev was to produce 13 units here for 2 turns and then press the attack into Moscow. However, they're not able to put the 13 units in. They're only getting, the last turn, they only put 7 units. So a far cry from what they intended. It's very much slowing down their advancement. It's pretty much gone to a stall at this point. Now this is good for the Russians because now it's buying them time to recoup their losses from that Olar-Kursk battle that severely weakened their army. Now for their answer to the Japanese taking their secondary capital, they did muster up a little bit of a force. So they got 4 infantry, KV-2, medium tank, a rocket, and a couple of their light bombers. We're also going to back up with an artillery and a mechanized. So it'll give them 7, 8, 9, 11 units to go against the Japanese. Right now they have 5. They'll be able to produce 3 more. So it'll be 13 units versus 8. So we'll see how that battle goes. But this is a must for the survival of future in Russia. Now, this may or may not be needed because they only need this when Moscow falls or if it falls. And the way it's looking, Germany's in a very much in a stall situation. So there's a couple ways Germany can handle this continuous landings by the Allies. One, which is probably the least favorable, would be to not counter, build up another force, and go in with a stronger force. Now, the downside of that is that the units that are here for the UK and the Americans, they're going to get a second wave. So I don't think that would actually accomplish anything. Instead of having 2 smaller battles, to just have 1 bigger battle. They can take their entire income. Right now they have $69. They can take the entirety of that and purchase all submarines and then go and engage the Allies in a naval combat. That could work. It will take a couple turns. The Allies will see that coming, and instead of producing land-based units, they'll switch over to sea-based. So I'm not sure if that's viable or not. If they were going to go down that road, they would need, they'll probably drop 11 subs one turn, 11 subs the next turn, but that's 2 turns of no land-based units for Germany. Another route, they can produce 6 fighters, combine that with their current air force, and attack the Navy with just air power. That the downside of that is buying fighters as opposed to subs. Fighters can get into the battle a turn faster, yes, but it's double the cost. You only get half the units. A mix of both subs and fighters might work as well. But again, by the time you produce them, have to take on this. The Americans put up their destroyers as secondary blocker. So it'll be 1, 2, 3 turns. That gives plenty of time for the UK, America to react to a sub purchase. strategy. Or just continue on as is, land, counter, hoping that the Allies run out of money. In order for that strategy to work, then they're going to heavily rely on the Italians and the UK or the Japanese to capture more territory to lower the income of the UK America. And at this point, the American income is pretty safe. The only territories that they have actually lost are these two, but they have gained Mexico and Brazil to counteract the loss of the Philippines and Guam. So they're definitely in a tough spot. They got some thinking to do. Because if you wait too long, Russia's going to get too strong and you won't be able to counter them properly. And any economy in this game that stalls for too long, that doesn't grow, if you take more losses than you're purchasing, then eventually the war of attrition you will lose. For the Italians, they did advance once again into Upper Egypt. So they're debating about should they make the attack on Cairo this turn or not. Right now, they currently have 5 infantry, 2 medium armor, 2 heavy artillery, and 3 regular artillery. Now they still have 3 of their transports are in the sea zone, so they could come and pick up these 3 units and another armor to add to the attack. The British will get 1 more buy, so they'll get 3 more units here, which is good for the European Germans because there's 3 less units to land in France. So now the Italians also did a little sneaky thing. They landed 2 guys up in Syria behind the British lines. So now they have 5 infantry here. So they have a choice to make. They can either go into Cairo for the defense, for the attack, or not and go and attack these guys. So if they go up and attack, they won't be able to get back in time for the defense. However, if you don't attack them, you're going to have all this territory here unopposed to the Italians. They'll just be able to walk in over the course of the next couple turns. And the land is worth $5. The bonus is worth $5. So that's $10 to either side. So it's going to be a hard choice. Now, if you go and remove these 2 Italians, that's less defense, you might lose Cairo. If you lose Cairo, you have no way to resupply this area outside of far off production facilities. To keep Africa, you need Cairo. So this is an interesting little move by the Italians. The past couple turns, they've just been taking infantry from Italy and putting it in northern Algeria. And then their plan is to take this mechanized and artillery and over the next couple turns move up and then attack this Brazilian force here. This will give more production to the Italians, take it away from the British. All right. And for the Allies, they did remove the final coastal sub, so there's no more convoying, so they're not losing any money there. These 3 destroyers, now that they're in the South Atlantic, they're probably going to swing up and take out this cruiser and sub, providing that the strait ain't open. If this opens up, then the Germans will enter the Mediterranean. And then their secondary mission would be to start removing these subs by the Japanese, removing $6. The Anzacs are getting involved, bring down 3 destroyers. So between the 6 destroyers, they should be able to take out these 3 subs. Unless the Japanese just vacate the area to save the subs. We'll see. But $6 is quite a sum away from FEC, so they want to remove this as fast as they can. Up in the northern Atlantic, they're just doing the same thing, chucking back and forth. They got the Brazilian transport almost back to the U.S., so that'll help out getting more units over. They're going to have to get some more transports on the next turnaround because they only got 2 coming up now, so they'll probably buy another 3. Because right now they're producing more land-based units than they have enough transports. So you want this evened out. You don't want to leave units behind. You want to take all of them with you when you can. And but on the flip side, you don't want too many transports where you're sailing over with no cargo. So probably 3 more, and then once this group comes back, they'll probably get 2 more in there. So there'll be a shipment of 5 going back and forth, so 10 units. May even bump it up to get 12 units over at a turn, which will put even more pressure on the Germans. The British are still doing their part. They got a stack of armor here, infantry. The Canadians are still producing units. So basically, the transports here just go back to the United Kingdom, back to France, offload. They're sending 2 transports over to Canada every turn. It's only 2 zones away, so that they don't require the sea base to get extra movement like the Americans need. So the Americans need 3 allotments of transports to make this truck work. The British just need the 1. The Italians are still trapped in the Mediterranean as they have no access points, so they're going to have to do something about Gibraltar soon. Possibly, instead of the Canadians coming over to France, they might divert down to get more reinforcements into Gibraltar before the Italians can make a move, because all their energy and time is focused on Cairo. So the Allies need to take advantage of their distraction now, because once Cairo goes, then all their focus will be on Gibraltar and cleanup of Africa. South Africans just got another infantry that they now have $5, so they'll produce a medium armor. So they're infantry, save, medium armor, infantry. They're in that cycle. FEC, the biggest force that they had was here in Burma. The Japanese did come down, and the Japanese won that battle. But they took heavy losses. All they have left are their heavy artillery and veteran infantry. They lost everything else. So that was quite... it was a victory for the Japanese, but it was a costly victory as they lost pretty much most of their units. But it was even more costly for the FEC, as now in this area of the map, Japan only has to focus on FEC. Now, flip side is true. They only got to worry about Japan, but the Japanese make a lot more money. So we'll see how this plays out over the next little bit. The Japanese just continue their conquest into the western Russian territories. They're going to take these 2 out, and then that'll be the end of it. Debating about declaring war on Mongolia. There's no real need for it. It would give them an extra $2 income, as I believe Mongolia only has about 7 units total. So we'll see. But there is no real need to declare war on Mongolia. They transported over, took out 2 more Anzac Islands. reducing their income down to 8 plus the transport bonus. So their intent next turn, take this convoy and then possibly ignore Anzac, as they should be focusing on this American fleet. I do need to clean this up, put it on a card, but they're still locked in their staring competition. Right now, the Americans have 5 carriers and 3 battleships and a slew of escort vessels. The Japanese have 5 battleships, 2 which are Armado, 5 carriers, and a slew of support vessels as well. They did go ahead and purchase another Armado, 3 more destroyers, and some land-based units. So right now, battleship count would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. They have 8, 4 of which are Armados. So I'm thinking the Japanese plan. This is pretty much, it's not 100% secure, but it's getting there. They're going to have to make a move against the Americans sooner rather than later. All right, and for the Russians, it's just going to be, they're going to take advantage of the time that the Allies are giving them, build up as much as they can. They're going to start looking into more advanced weaponry, more armor, try to rebuild their Air Force. They do have 1 partisan pop up, so it'll give them a free infantry. Because the longer the Germans stall or are unable to move because they don't have infantry cover, the better it is for the Russians. So, all right, so that's just a quick recap. Again, just to give you an idea of what the Germans are working with, this is all in eastern Ukraine. So they need to build up their infantry before they advance. This is what's currently in Moscow. So very strong in infantry, weak in advanced weaponry. This is currently in Leningrad. So they may move out to counter the landings, but the Germans made in Finland. As in Polish, they only got a couple of infantry, so there's no real threat there. And this task force is going to liberate their secondary capital, giving them an extra $3 and a backup just in case they need it. All right, well, thank you for watching and have yourself a great day.